in, everybody. This is Fourth and Dynasty, brought to you by Dynasty Pros. You've got Brian and Cody here to break down the last bit of the rookies we have, and we are a mere 8 days from the draft when we're recording this. Cody, how pumped are we?
I cannot wait. I love this time of year, and the best day of the year, Thursday night, is coming. It's coming very soon, and I cannot wait.
I don't know if it's recency bias, but I don't know if I've been more hyped for a draft than I have been for this one. We've got potentially 4 quarterbacks going, much less the first round, maybe the top 10 picks. We've got some of the most elite wide receivers we've come out, and we've seen some crazy good ones come out over the last few years. So just so much can happen. We've got multiple first round picks with a couple of teams, maybe some hometown favorites for you yourself moving up. I'm giddy. I'm giddy right now. I can't hold it in.
Now, I understand why they do it and stuff, but I kind of miss the draft being just all day long one day, because that was a trek. You had to be a huge draft nut to just watch that all day, and I did.
Oh, absolutely. I'm the one that watches day 3 on Saturday.
I watched day 3 as well. Yeah.
Like, no, the draft's on. Are you kidding? We got 5th round picks coming up.
Yeah, these are important. This is where you build your roster.
100%, because where else do you find Puka Nakuas and Kyron Williams? The 5th round, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So where do you think we're landing here before we really jump into things? Do you think we're going to have some, I mean, obviously not a rookie of the year, or I mean, maybe not a record-breaking rookie, but do you think we'll find a rookie of the year prospect coming out of these later drafts this year?
There might be a few. I think there's a wide receiver out there that's going to get overlooked or dropping that I think might be pretty good.
That's what I like to hear. Let's go. We're another great season ahead of you. I mean, you heard it here first. Cody, I mean, he threw it out there for us. We've got some magic coming in these later rounds. So we did cover the quarterbacks and the running backs. So, of course, we have wide receiver tight ends to cover here. So you ready to jump into it?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, well, as a Colts fan here, I can't wait to introduce this first fella. He's got the same name, just a few more letters. Marvin Harrison Jr., coming out of Ohio State, 6'3", 209. This is sheer brilliance is coming out of Ohio State right now. This kid he looks just like his dad, only a taller version. Marvin Harrison was unbeatable in so many forms, but he wasn't that tall. He was a smaller guy. So then you put it on this bigger frame, and oh my gosh, gushing over this guy. But tell me, what else do we need to know about this guy?
Well, like we've went through a lot with Marvin Harrison, it's usually not a consensus, but you would probably say in this draft, 2 offensive players are the top 2 guys in this draft, where it's usually like a defensive end and maybe 2 of them or edge guys. But Marvin Harrison is one of those 2 guys to me, and he's, again, I'm going to use that word. It's just, he's a technician. He does everything good. And he does some things great. Like, he's got great contested catch. He has elite burst and release off of the line of scrimmage, but everything else he does good. And man, if you can get that in a top, in your first round pick, you're going to be happy. So
yeah, I think this is as close as we get to a can't miss product. You
almost.
know, like a guy that you can take safely in a dynasty draft, and you don't have to worry about there being busts here.
Exactly, and I mean, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. What if the Colts traded up for him? What if he dropped to 5? What if he dropped to 5? Would you trade up?
We were just talking about maybe us moving up for Neighbors, because he could fall potentially maybe, that 8-ish spot. And now you're going to pump rainbows up my ass and say that Marvin Harrison could come home to Indy. Look, I'd be willing to trade a good amount. If he drops to 5, I'd be willing to trade a future first in the 15th. Yeah, I could do the future first in the 15th for Marvin Harrison. Give it to me.
That's almost worth it.
If it's too much more than that, I don't know if I want to, but I think I'd easily give up, this and next year for it.
Yeah,
I mean, the big question here.
You have your quarterbacks, so it's like, go get him the weapon of the future and just play them both, or use them both on their rookie contracts, pay them later, secure your line, secure everything else on your defense, and just go win one right now.
Hey, I'm down. You don't have to twist my arm. Let's do it. It's our GM that just loves to trade down, though, and miss on receivers. Uh, but I think the big question here, this guy's obviously going number one in all single QB rookie drafts. You know, like, I mean, if you prefer neighbors, take neighbors. But for the most part, this is the consensus number one. I think the big question now I'm seeing is it worth taking him in Superflex? Caleb Williams is supposed to be another generational talent at quarterback. We talked about how great he is. But quarterbacks, you know, they systems. He's going to Chicago. Maybe something happens there. It doesn't work out. I won't get your input from that because I know what you're going to say there. But Marvin Harrison, Superflex 101. Thoughts?
You know, I have a 101 in one draft and I have the 1.12, and I'm really contemplating what I should do. Because do I take Marvin Harrison and be happy with that, or do I go and grab Caleb Williams, which I desperately need quarterback help, but that whole roster needs help? So what's going to help me quicker? And it might just be Marvin Harrison in a rebuild because, I mean, one of those quarterbacks is probably making it to me too at the 12. So it's just more of how is it going to fall? I don't know. But
I feel you there.
I think it's okay if, especially if your team is in like a full rebuild and you only have one or two picks and it's like the 101 and the 17 or 112 like I do. It's hard to navigate how you want to build your roster, but if it's a super flex league and you have no quarterbacks, you're going to need two regardless. So try to find that somewhere else with some other trades, I would assume, and try to get some vets on that. And then I would go with Marvin Harrison because then you're set for your wide receiver. You got to find some more flex plays, but you never have to take Marvin Harrison out.
Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of at too as far as consideration. I've got a dynasty team with the 101 as well. Went into this past year, I knew I was going to have to be playing for the future. I mean, I was starting Taysom Hill as my starting quarterback in that super flex league because Trey Lance is all I've got, and Joe Burrow was an IR. So I'm not gonna lie, I've got a 103 and the 101 in that league, and I'm considering taking Marv with that 101 because I know I'll still get a choice of good quarterbacks there at the 103. So. Every situation is different there, people, but I don't think it should be off the table as far as a conversation, even in Superflex.
For sure. The bigger question I have is I'm an LSU fan, right? But I personally I think Marvin Harrison is the 101 for wide receivers. And I think there's a pretty significant tier break between everyone else. Now, I love Malik Neighbors, but you cannot take him above Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion. He's way closer to Rome Odunze than he is Marvin Harrison.
So at this point in time, I would agree with that. But what if we get a situation like Malik Neighbors goes to the Giants, who desperately needs wide receivers, and Marv goes to the Patriots?
That's a fair assessment, but you just hope the Patriots aren't going skill position. That's just what you're hoping for.
Right? Quarterback or trade down, Patriots. I think that's kind of the conversation here, as like we have so much speculation we're doing right now, but end of the day, there are going to be landings. I mean, JSN was the 101 going into last year, and his landing spot was nearly as bad as it can get. And now we're questioning the talent, whether he's actually good or not, just because of what that landing spot did to it. So,
people are still crapping the bed with Quentin Johnson, but he's probably the wide receiver one there. I mean, Addison's always going to be wide receiver 2, second fiddle to Justin Jefferson, so you can't say he had a good landing spot either. I mean, you can, because I would play a wide receiver 2, Jordan Addison, in most formats, but it's just more of a maybe it's Quentin Johnson, maybe it's Zay Flowers. I don't know. You're right. Those landing spots do matter for sure. We're 8 days out, so we're not there yet.
Right. We'll get to flip this conversation on its head in, like you said, 8 days. But Malik Neighbors is the next guy we're going to talk about. 6 foot, 201, just barely over that 200 mark, which, I mean, it's trending away from, but that's definitely a marker I like to see. This kid was, sadly enough, Jamar Chase-esque. Coming out of the same school, you hate to have to compare it to a kid coming out of the same school, but that's what you got from him. Flaws, anything that you're afraid of with this guy? Is he supplanted above?
He is supplanted as my 2, but I think he does need some work and some development in his outside wide receiver, the X position. Just because I mean, he didn't play it a lot because Brian Thomas was pretty good out there, and we realize that now with the combine and stuff that he can fly. But Neighbors can too, and he's really good at his short and intermediate routes. I don't know what his deep route looks like, and I don't know if he's physical enough right now to be that primary X wide receiver, and we need him to be. If he's going to a team like New York Giants, he can't play the slot when you have Wan'Dale Robinson and some other guys. But do you play him as the wide receiver too and have like Isaiah Hodgins or something like that play on the other side of him? It might work then, but I still think I think he needs to be a complementary piece his first year for sure. So I would actually like him to go somewhere where he can't like again, like the Colts. Like I think him playing with Pittman would be amazing because Pittman can do what he needs to do, and Neighbors can excel at what he already knows what he's gonna do, and he can learn from Pittman.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's just signed. Let's just put it in stone. Get Roger on the phone. Where's the script, man? Oh god. All right, let's go to our next guy. I feel like he's picked up quite a bit of steam over the last few weeks, but Rome Odunze coming out of Washington. Everybody's considered him. He is the best out of all the rest of these guys. He is a tier above guys 4, 5, 6, and below. But lately, Matt Harmon from Reception Perception, put out some glowing charts on how he works. There's other guys in this industry that are like highlighting how good this guy is and that he could be in that Neighbors tier. So are we looking at hopefully another can we get 3 can't miss guys?
I think we can. I think we can. And out of the 3, he's the most fluid in his route running, and like sideline catches. Like he makes those looks effortless when those are some of the hardest throws a quarterback has to make. He'll make every catch, and he puts himself in positions to make sure that he's going to get the first down or make sure that the catch is caught, obviously, or the pass is caught. And that's a thing that I don't think Marvin Harrison is one thing Marvin Harrison can definitely improve on, and Malik Neighbors for sure. He's more middle of the field receiver. He's the best sideline receiver that they have. So when you need him and you need a few yards to get a key third down, I'm throwing it to Rome Odunze every time.
One big knock on the guy that you have or I've seen anyway is the fact that he wasn't an early declare stat. Like he didn't declare early. He is a 4th-year wide receiver coming out of college. We're playing kind of in Asterixville just because of the COVID year. I feel like this is the last year that we're going to see the COVID ramifications, but he's still only 21 years old. So I don't think that I've got any risk there. I'm the guy that craps all over his age, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, he fits your other criteria. He's 6'3", 220. That was his playing weight. So he's good there. His release point coming off of the ball sometimes is a little wonky. And sometimes he tries to be too finesse with his arms and his feet that it's not, people don't bite on it. But he's great with catching in traffic and all these other things. So I do like Rome Odunze a lot, and I think he'd fit well with like Michael Wilson down in Arizona. So I think they do trade down, and I think their target's Rome Odunze, to be honest. I think they have too much power with the 4th pick that they're okay with not going with Marvin Harrison if someone else wants him because they know they can get Neighbors or Odunze. And I think they'd be okay with that.
That's a nice trio still too.
Exactly.
With Wilson Odunze and then Trey McBride. Kyler Murray he'd get off Call of Duty to go throw to them.
I think so.
I definitely would. All right, let's head back to LSU because we've got a large fella here to talk about. This guy brought down touchdown after touchdown here at LSU. 6'3", 209. He played opposite of Malik Neighbors and really took advantage of it. But what are the things that we need to know about this guy? Because outside of his touchdowns, his production profile is weaker than we'd see typically out of these top guys.
I would like to point out in my article from 2 months ago, I did put he has deceptive speed, and that was proven right. So I was happy about that. But he uses his length to his advantage, and I think that's a major indicator. Of course, you saw how many touchdowns he can get. So he has great body control that I think is kind of unmatched. He, of course, we don't like 1 year production guys, but look at the slew of wide receivers that have come out of LSU lately. Kind of just had to wait his turn, but he also got to learn from all those guys as well. So it just, I think it's his speed and his body control is a determining factor in what he can do, and that's where I think the Giants should go is Brian Thomas. I think he would be really good, but I don't. I think they have 2 first-round picks, right? I think they should go to the later one with him, or they might trade down too. Who knows? But I don't know. I like Brian Thomas with the New York Giants a little bit.
I mean, they need some size. I feel like all they've drafted is slot wide receiver after slot wide receiver. Sterling Shepard, he has to move on at some point.
Yes.
Is he still on the team? Him and Slayton? Goodness, those guys
Yep.
just loved the talent.
Yeah, and I mean, you even have Hyatt and Wandale Robinson. They're all just better versions of Sterling Shepard now. Slayton is what he is. Hodgins is what he is. Yeah, they need a true guy to be the number one guy on the outside, and I think Brian Thomas can be that. I think that's honestly what he's made to do, because everything that Malik Neighbors can do, there's already guys on that team that know how to do it. So just let
you talk about
Brian Thomas be Thomas.
The body control and what he can do with all that. Sounds like it's going to go pretty well with the Daniel Jones, who's not going to throw the ball very accurate. So if he's able to make some acrobatic catches and do a little bit of stretching, I think that might help complement Jones's game a little bit more.
Exactly. Yep.
Alrighty. Next guy we've got on the list, Xavier Worthy. Don't know if I've heard of him. His name just kind of shoots right through your head. As fast as he was at the combine. Oh my gosh, this guy broke the record at the 40 for the 40 at the combine. I'm sure you've heard of him. Xavier Worthy, one of the 2 UT wide receivers, 5'11", 165. He's a light fella, so it makes sense why he's moving so quick. But just an unreal production at Texas, despite Ewer's sketchy game there. But tell me, how much you love him? Do you hate him?
Well, I don't hate him, but I'm also he's in a different tier than the guys that we've already talked about for sure. And I mean, you can't. 165 is small for the NFL. It just is. So it's just like, what is he going to be doing? And look at Tank Dell. We can't have Xavier Worthy blocking up the middle on a wide receiver screen or anything like that, or a motion for a wide receiver to block. It's just not going to work. The best thing Xavier Worthy does is he compliments his teammates, because he is so fast and he is so smooth and balanced down the field that you have to have a few eyes, more than 2. So 3 or 4, maybe even 6 eyes on him at all times to make sure that he doesn't break away. And that makes A.D. Mitchell that much better. So I think any team he goes, he's going to be a threat. And if you use him correctly in a motion type of offense, he's going to be really good. I wouldn't say he's like, all right, he's obviously not a Deebo Samuel, but I would say he's more of like a Curtis Samuel type, where he can be that gadget type of player that you need.
I do love me some Curtis Samuel. That
I
is
do
for
too.
sure.
Especially with the Bills.
Oh, I just put out a video today about that. Oh man.
Go
so
watch
obviously, who wouldn't love to see this kid playing with Patrick Mahomes? But that's the easy one. You got a favorite team you'd like to see him go to?
I mean, yeah, Kansas City is an easy one, isn't it?
Would it be with Curtis Samuel in the Bills?
Well, I think they need a replacement for Jamal Agnew down in Jacksonville. I think he would fit that role pretty well. The kick returner, both returners, and then just kind of another reliable drag route kind of receiver that can make plays in the open field. Because you're going to have Kirk, and you're going to have Gabe Davis, and you're going to have Zay Jones out there already. You need that other guy alongside Evan. Like, just think about Evan Ingram and Xavier Worthy crossing the field and how they're both going to just destroy linebackers all day, every day. You can't beat that. And Lawrence, I think, needs one more weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think
Jacksonville would be a good one.
Yeah, I think they'd be a sneaky team to grab a wide receiver in this first round. Just granted, they grabbed Davis. They've got 3 wide receivers there, but no, I think they'd be great to grab one. Who next? Who we going to?
What about a guy? I don't know if you like this guy or not. Do you like Troy Franklin?
You know, I'm not sure how to feel about him. I feel like I liked him at the beginning of the process. Combine, there were some and then there were some eyebrow raises, but I'm not really sure. I think he's definitely going to be a where does he land? Because there's a lot to love about his game. Another fast guy. He's 6'3", 187, so another long, lanky kid. But the speed's good, or at least he was the one that during the gauntlet. Wasn't he one of the faster ones during the gauntlet?
Yes. That was also Kean Coleman, I think, is what you're really thinking of.
I think
But
Coleman was the highlight of it. Yeah.
yeah, but Franklin was still he tested or like his 40 wasn't the best, and he didn't test the best, but his on field and his tape is there's a reason why Bowman Nix is going to go as high as he's going to, and it's Troy Franklin. He bailed him out a lot. He dominates man coverage. I love watching him against some DBs and especially even Washington. He was dominating their corners, and they were pretty good. So it just you want to see or like Brian Thomas. He's not a one hit wonder. He has a career progression. He got better every year going into
And he's
college,
young,
and he's still young. So it's
barely 21.
there's a lot of now we're getting into the group of like they just need a good complement wide receiver, right? Like
Yep.
he'd fit in a lot of different places, but like just think of him with Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin and their quarterback or their rookie quarterback. I think it would be pretty nice. And I think he is slipping. I think he is a first round talent, but he's one of the guys that have slipped down into the second, third round. So I think Washington could probably get him.
Yeah, I've seen teams. I think this was one of the early Chiefs predictions for who they take at the end of the draft.
Oh,
And then
man,
now all of a
that's
sudden you're seeing
nasty.
other guys slip into that spot, and Troy Franklin's like a early to mid second round guy. So
Yep.
I just don't want to see him turn into like a Jamison Williams with all that
Yep.
speed. We want to see him kind of roll and meld into something. But I think he is in that outside of the top three guys, he's in that tier for me from wide receiver 4 to about wide receiver 10.
Yeah, and they
Probably should
all
be a
have
little
an
close.
argument to be there.
Yeah, I think it's us taking the easy way out, but without knowing where they go in the draft, I don't give a. I don't care. I'm
It's
taking the
true.
easy way out. So take that in your
Yep.
comments and write it, or yeah, there's something there. We'll work. But
So I know you're
awesome.
not big into the draft process, but out of the other two Washington wide receivers, Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan, which one do you like more?
I think I'm a McMillan guy.
Me too.
I think I am. I'm starting to come a little bit more on Polk. I've started to see, more data kind of, and I've dug a little bit more into him. But when you're watching the film, it's hard not to look at Odunze. Like just naturally you go there. But yeah, I think McMillan definitely he caught my eye a little bit more.
I like both of them as well, but I agree with you in a few different. Yeah, it's kind of hard to like justify why, but
Well, so we've
because
got
they're kind of the same guy. But I do. Jalen McMillan does everything for you, even if it doesn't fill the stat sheet. That's what I like about him. He's not a diva, and I think that's what I like about him more. Is he
wide
if
receivers are the
Polk was
divas.
yeah if Polk was having a good game and Odunze was always getting his, he's all right with that as long as they're winning. So I love that in a wide receiver, and I think he's really good with that. Now against bigger DBs and when they get handsy, he's not as physical as the other two, but I do like what I see from him.
Yeah, both guys, like you said, they're very similar as far as body size. They're both 6'1". They're both right around that 200 pound range. So it's a flip of the coin, and I think what's going to make their career is going to be the draft. I think that's going to drastically show us which one's going to have more fantasy success. Because me personally, I don't know if I could definitively say, put my money on one over the other.
Yeah. Where
Um,
where do you want to go to next? What's another guy that you like?
um, well, I don't know, laddie. Let's head over to I don't know. Is it Scotland or Ireland? I don't remember. Horrible joke there. Appropriation. Is that just Lad McConkey here, people. That's what we're getting to. Lad McConkey, the the star of the Senior Bowl, or one of the stars of the Senior Bowl, coming out of Georgia. It's 5'11", 209. This kid showed out way more than I would have ever freaking guessed. I'm sure it's the natural bias that is there that when you look at him, but like just kid's explosive. His 40 time was awesome. It was up there with some of the better ones. And as far as more of the slot style is kind of how I saw him. Just coming out of Georgia, they didn't really need a whole lot of wide receiver work. They got Brock Bowers. They got a great defense. They run the ball so. That's the big thing with him. He is a fourth year declare. His production profile isn't what you want to see, but with hype possibly of him going in the first round, maybe late to the Bills, something like that, if the Bills don't move up. Here we go, McConkey, what you got?
Where do you? I like him too. I like his short area quickness. I like his route running. The thing that separates him from some of these other guys is his speed variation. He gives you a little stutter step, and you don't know how fast he is and explosive he is, and then he's behind you. So that it makes him a vertical threat with that as well. He burned a lot of corners like that when you just expect Georgia to run the ball. That's what they've always done, right? But there are a few other guys in the draft that would I take him in the first round when there's like Jacob Cowing, Ricky Pearsall, Tez Walker that I could get in the fourth or fifth round and probably get the same results out of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. This guy's all over the map for me, and I think that's here we go, taking it the easy way out. But it's draft position. Where do we get to see this kid shine? Does he get a shot to compete for that second wide receiver slot on a team, or is he going to get thrown in the depth charts? But like you said, his quickness, I think it will compute well into the NFL. I think he's a smart player from the way you see him move out there on the field. So if you can get a team where he can find open spots in the zone, maybe with more of a mobile quarterback, I think this guy could really shine.
Agreed. Now, I'm going to rattle off 4 names. Which one are you going to take if you were a GM in the 5th or 6th round? You're going to have Anais Smith from A&M. You're going to have Brandon Rice from USC, Johnny Wilson from Florida State, and Luke McCaffrey from Rice.
Dude, those are all gross names. Those are gross. And I say gross as in like I'm doing tons of best ball right now. And those are guys you are getting in the final 3, maybe 4 rounds. I don't know. Brennan Rice and McCaffrey, the only reason I would think that we're going to see any relevance, at least this year, from them is if they go to the Niners and just kind of get like a, one of those roles. Just be.
You don't think he can back up his brother?
It's not that they're not great players, but I just think that this is a very deep wide receiver draft. So where these guys go is going to be interesting. Anais Smith is actually somebody I just came across recently. I was in a draft with somebody was talking about him. So I still need to do a little bit more digging then, or I might wait till after the draft, because if he doesn't go before round 7, I might not do the digging. But what do we need to know about this kid?
Anais Smith, or
yeah,
he was just consistent. I mean, with all the turmoil with Jimbo Fisher and stuff, he always just came out and balled. Even if the stat, again, like, he's not a stat sheet guy per se. He's not going to just be the be all end all wide receiver 1 guy, but he's doing the little things to try to make his team win. And again, I'm going to bet on that every time, rather than maybe going a Johnny Wilson route where he's a big wide receiver. He's a little slow, but it's just more of a, is he going to put his body on the line like I need him to? Or is he going to play special teams and be good at it? That's where I think Luke McCaffrey is probably going to shine too. He's going to be a Swiss Army knife wherever he goes if he gets onto the right system. So, yeah, I like him, but His other Johnny Wilson is bigger. Anaya Smith is bigger. Brendan Rice and Luke McCaffrey. I thought there was pretty good comp with size, and I wanted to see if you liked any of them. So, but let's go back into some of the higher round guys. What's your take on AD Mitchell?
A.D. Mitchell. Well, I will say out of the two Texas receivers, he is not on the top of my board. I definitely like Worthy. He is my favorite of the two. And, I don't know what to think of A.D. Mitchell. Uh, if you break down the talent, yes, tons of talent. It's almost equivalent to the Brian Thomas of LSU, or of UT. Just he was the touchdown guy
Mm-hmm.
while the production was coming on the other end. But the big thing is, the dude looks lazy. You see him kind of taking plays off. He's kind of just chilling there. Like it very like you can tell NIL is a thing now. Like they're having to pay him to keep his attention. Otherwise, this kid would not be caring two craps what's going on in the field. Very talented, immensely talented. He's also young, so like, does he wise up, mature up over the next few years and realize, oh my gosh, I've got a gift that almost a very small percentage of the entire world ever gets to do something with? Maybe, but at the same time, if I have this many great wide receivers to choose from, I'd rather not roll the dice. If we're gonna have some sort of not I almost said behavioral issues. Rashi Rice is on my mind, but like if he's gonna be a problem child, if he's gonna come in there and just maybe not do the work.
It's really funny because I like hearing you say some of that stuff because 2 months ago I said he has wasteful route running. He's just running the
I
route to
like
run
the
the route,
verbiage.
and he's not doing it to get open or even receive the ball. He's just doing it because that's what he's supposed to be doing. Now, he has elite lateral movement and quickness, and he's obviously athletic, and he's got a really nice, from his hip down, he has really nice twitch that he can burn some guys. But like you said, yeah, is he going to be physical enough? Can he ball track? He's got a lot of question marks that he needs to get answered. And is he going to do it? I think you nailed it on the head there. I do like him, but not in the first round, maybe not even the second. But if he was there and you're twisting my arm in the third and we need a wide receiver, I'm going to try to put all my chips in his basket.
All right. I don't know, just not as appealing to me as I feel like he should be. Again, great talent, but not all these guys are going to hit. There have to be misses. There's always misses. And
Yep.
I think the fun game right now is which quarterbacks are going to be misses, because historically you go back, two of those four most likely misses, if not three. So that's a game for another day, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, we don't need to talk about that. In my latest article, it was a dynasty dilemma about Trevor Lawrence. And I talked about how the first quarterback in that draft of 21 and the last quarterback of 22, Brock Purdy, are the only two that have hit. There's like 18 quarterbacks in between. So this is
There's a lot of draft capital on those guys,
a lot of
too.
draft capital and a lot of lost jobs. So it's just more of
It's okay. Trey Lance is going to come back. He's going to make that draft pick worth it.
see, now you're just pulling on my heartstrings. Don't give me hope. Don't give me hope. Let's wrap up the wide receivers. I'll take one. You take one. I'll take Roman Wilson.
Perfect. I want to
I
key on
think Roman
Coleman.
Wilson is a guy that is kind of getting overlooked just because he played at Michigan, and obviously we know 28 straight runs and stuff, but he's pretty when he needed to get open, he can get open. That's all I can really say about him without like regurgitating information, right? He's just another guy. He's in the Ricky Pearsall, Malachi Corley range for me. And because he went to a Power Five school, I'm going to bet on him before I'm going to do that. Now I know Leggett and Pearsall went to SEC as well, but the SEC, or South Carolina and Florida, they're not or those are ACC schools. I'm sorry, even better. Like
Even better.
I'm gonna take the Big Ten over those ACC wide receivers all day, just because of the physicality of the Big Ten is closer to NFL standards than most. And he's proven that he can get open, and he's proven that he can play against smaller and bigger corners. and do what needs to get done to win the game. That's why everyone is appealed by JJ McCarthy. It should be the same thing with Roman Wilson.
Yeah, it's a shame because I'm with you. I don't know. I like the talent. I think he's a guy worth taking a shot on.
Yep.
Because he's essentially the polar opposite of how I see AD Mitchell. Like he does the work that needs to be done. The stuff that nobody thanks you for, and that's a San Francisco 49er right there, if you ask me.
Yeah, especially if they lose Ayuk, that'd be nice.
Mm-hmm. That's that type of player.
We have some
Cool.
time. We'll talk about that later too.
Guy I wanted to bring up is Keon Coleman out of Florida State, 6'3", 213. Guy's kind of all over the board as far as when you look at his numbers and the production and stuff like that, but something about when he's running his routes and that ball's in the air, his body control, the contested catches, he's not going, you know what I mean? Right there. That's just, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where I see him going. Like, is he going to be flirting with, a late first round pick, or is he going to be somewhere in that second round? But I think there's some talent there, and there's the GM that's going to take a shot on him for sure.
For sure. He's got good acceleration, and he's a yak monster. But I think he's got a little bit of the George Pickens of he doesn't have breakaway speed, and he's always in his contested catches. Because I don't think he has that separation control yet.
Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, so I'm hoping he can learn some of that more than what Pickens and Kenny Galladay have ever had. So I think I like Keon Coleman. I do, but that's my worry about him.
Yeah, I think he might be more exciting and more fun for the NFL than he ends up being for fantasy football.
Yes, exactly. And thank God he got out of Michigan State, or else we wouldn't even be talking about him right now.
So, last two, I just had a couple honorable mentions I had to throw out there. Ricky Pearsall, of course, like that catch. Oh my gosh, that catch. He's got some other great parts to his game. So I think if he's still a day 2 pick, I think we could see some fantasy relevance out of him as a role player. And then Jermaine Burton. I feel like he doesn't get as much hype as he should. He's another Alabama wide receiver. I don't know. I got a thing for Alabama receivers, just.
So you didn't see the news? There's character concerns with Jermaine Burton. So he's fallen down drafts, but who knows what's a hearsay and what's not.
This is just a Laramie Tunsil bong mask is all this is.
Okay. Perfect. You're gonna take the Alabama guy over. I mean, it's the same kind of argument with Roman Wilson, right? I'm gonna take him over some of the other smaller named wide receivers unless I know. And he's in that group of I don't know which one is better, so I'm probably gonna go with the Power 5 or the SEC and Big Ten wide receiver over some of the other guys.
Yeah, he's a gut guy. Like you said, we're down to like tier 5-ish of these rookies. So yeah, he's just a gut feeling.
Some guys that I think are gonna come through in round 6 and round 7 that might even make teams. I'd say Isaiah Williams out of Illinois. He's a fluid route runner. Malik Washington out of Virginia. They're just a little quiet, and they're getting some top 30 visits. And of course, Javon Baker from UCF. I like what I see from him as well. But again, he's in that same Malachi Corley, Jacob Cowing range, and I just don't know what I'm going to do. And I triggered something in you. You want to talk about Jacob Cowing?
Oh, no, it was actually Corley that made me think of somebody else, weirdly enough. A guy you didn't even get named, but Corley, I'm not sure where I feel about him. He's as controversial, I feel, as like you get in the dynasty circles. A guy that's kind of just recently slid onto my radar, I don't know why, Jamari Thrash. Out of Louisville, 6 foot, 188. I've got some like super hype I'm hearing, and then I'm like, why are you talking about him? So, enlighten us, Cody. What is there to know about Mr. Thrash?
Well, I learned about Jamari Thrash in my first ever college draft last year, and I just kind of started picking some wide receivers because I needed some. And Jamari Thrash is one of the guys I got, and I pretty much got the number 1 seed because of him. He's a gadget player. He can rush the ball. He can run with the ball. He's a little smaller, but he's reliable. And in the later rounds, that's what you're also going to try to be expecting is reliability. And if I was going to take an ACC wide receiver, I'm taking him over almost everyone else. I think over
Nice.
even Tez Walker, I'm taking him over him for sure. He's
So a nice little like 4th-round flyer in your rookie drafts.
oh yeah, I would be taking Jamari Thrash in 4th rounds for sure,
Nice.
just to see what I can get. And, I mean, again, it's in ad nauseum, right? But draft position's key.
Goodness. We're gonna tag how many times we say that in this episode. We're gonna
Right, I
bleep
think
them
it's
out if
about
it's a bad
7 or 8 now. Yeah,
word.
gonna get a strike on YouTube because of it.
Well, it's time to get to the most fun position of all of fantasy football. We've got tight ends to talk about. No, we've got tight end to talk about, and then there's a bunch of other guys I guess we threw in this list too. But Brock Bowers, the elite of the elite, it doesn't get much better than this. Best prospect since Kyle Pitts, yada yada yada. I mean, is there a con here? Is there a reason we wouldn't be
I
taking him?
I don't know if it's more of just how they played Georgia or not, but I saw some issues with press coverage. I think once if a corner and a bigger corner is up on him, I think he has a little bit of issue getting the hands off of him. But other than that, he just needs to play a little bit more physical in his route running ability, and I'm probably going to get flack for it, but does he have NFL speed? Now, he's been running away from a lot of people. You see all the highlights, but if you really dig into it, can he maintain it? I don't know. I hope so, because, I mean, you watch the video from earlier today or even yesterday, and you just see the backflip. You're like, this guy's a specimen. And I think he wants sound bites like that because that's what fuels him. So you're welcome, Brock Bowers,
Well,
for get faster.
well, that and the Gronk picture kind of kicked his ego down a little bit too, I'm sure.
Yeah, he looked like a little kid, that's for sure.
So Brock Bowers, I think he deserves to be a top 10 pick. I think this year he might have the unfortunate, like running across 4 quarterbacks going in the top 10 potentially, which could kick him down. Do you have a favorite team that you see him taking?
I mean, just like with all the mocks and stuff, if he goes to New York Jets, he's an instant top 5 fantasy pick in rookie drafts. Almost. Like, he's going to eat with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. I'll take the 1 year or 2 year production with Aaron Rodgers over anything, really, if he can get that. Because, I mean, Aaron Rodgers' best year in the last 5 years is that year with Robert Tunyon, and that was the last time he had a healthy tight end or a halfway decent tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So then you give him Brock Bowers. What are we even talking about? Like, out of the top 10, I think that's the best one, or best place for him, in my opinion. But yeah, after that, where do you think?
See, I think that's where it kind of gets hairy. I have seen a handful of mocks of him if he falls to 15, to the Colts. The Bengals are either 17 or 18. I've
Oh
seen
yeah,
like
the
mocks
Bengals
like
need one
that's
for
kind of
sure.
like the last ditch. And I know that the Bengals don't throw to the tight end, but they just lost their offensive coordinator. And T. Higgins, we just got reports recently that like he will most likely be in Cincinnati for this year for sure. But if they're moving on, that's a nice combination of weapons to have your wide receiver and tight end locked in, and then you can just have a revolving door of wide receiver 2 and 3. So I don't hate any of those, but honestly, I think the Jets between most realistic and best fit, I think that one is the way to go.
Agreed. So I know the tight end position is a barren wasteland, right? But out of the other guys, who's your next favorite?
You know, I like to be contrarian as much as my gut allows me, and there's a UT guy, but I just look. I spent too many years in Texas. I don't like Texas. I don't like Texas. So many things about Texas, the teams, the people. So I'm gonna go Theo Johnson. This kid is
Oh,
an
okay.
athletic freak, And what I like to do for my tight end position is I grab athletic freaks. You know, granted, some of them don't pay off as early as you want, but I'm not saying grab them in the first round. You know, guys like Evan Ingram and Njoku are the easiest guys to point to. You know, I've been all over them for the last several years just because we know tight ends take a while to develop, and they are too athletic to not come into fruition. Granted, OJ Howard didn't work, but it's a shotgun approach with this situation. So I love just putting my money on the athletic guys, and you can't go wrong here.
Like we have been talking about too, like just think of like Michael Mayer last year. I'd be trying to trade Michael Mayer for a second round pick and probably get it, and then take another flyer at tight end in the third or fourth round just to see if I can do it again. Just trying to get the most value out of the young tight ends while I can before they get another draftee comes in and takes their spot. So I do like Theo Johnson, but I think him and Cade Stover are just a little bit too similar for my liking. I don't know which one to pick. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of either. So, but we can't go anywhere without talking about tight end university, and that's Eric All. Do you know anything about Eric All, or do you want me to enlighten you a little bit?
Well, I'm going to enlighten people that he's probably going to be a great tight end because he does come from Iowa. So that's about as good as analysis you really need here, folks. But if you want some actual solid, Cody, give it to him. Give them what they really want here.
So Eric All was the second tight end on his team, if you can believe it or not. But Luke Lachey got hurt, and he went back to school, which I thought was surprising because I thought if Lachey comes out, he's probably a top 3 tight end in this class too. Now he's going for tight end 1. Totally get it. Understand. Draft positions, everything, even for their money. He's a Swiss. Eric All was the Swiss Army knife. He can block. He can catch. He can run. He's reliable. He has good timing on his catches. Like he puts his hands up at the perfect times to make sure the defender's eyes aren't on him too early. He doesn't have top end speed. Needs to learn how to separate a little bit better. He had a little bit of problems with some drops, but I'm also not going to put that on him. I'm not going to say he's a drop artist because of who was throwing him the ball. some of those Iowa quarterbacks, man, it's been their Achilles heel for forever.
I mean, they don't call it QBU for a reason,
It's true. It's rough out there.
Is this a guy that you can see getting, possibly day 2 draft capital, or is this going to be a day 3 guy that we're just shooting a shot on?
No, I think he's definitely going to be probably the 3rd or 4th tight end off the board. He might even be the 2nd tight end off the board. It just all depends on what you're looking for. But again, just think of track record with Eric All. The last few tight ends from Iowa have hit. Why wouldn't you try to get the next one? So if you're in need of a tight end that can also block, he's – I'm not comparing him to TJ Hawkinson, but he can turn into that if you need him to.
Yeah.
So I think he's not as athletic, and he shouldn't be going in the top 10 of drafts like Hawkinson did. He's not as refined yet, but he is that type of type of tight end that he can be. He's reliable in the run game and all that kind of stuff, but he's also sneaky athletic.
And I think that's something, it's big to consider because as we're looking through the lens of fantasy football, I just want an athletic tight end. Most of these coaches and GMs, they want a guy who can block too. So when you can get a combo like that, like you usually can from Iowa, that's, definitely he's got a better chance, I'm sure, of getting, some higher draft capital with that dual threat ability.
I mean, you look at it like Evan Ingram. Sometimes you have to take him off the field, or you have to put him out in the slot so then you can get another defender in there because he cannot block. Then you have the Sam Laportas of the world where he's an every down tight end. How many can you get of those? George Kittle, Iowa. TJ Hawkinson, Iowa. Like there's just there's some guys that can do it, and Eric All might be the next guy that can do it.
I'm all for it, man. We need to load this NFL up with functioning tight ends because we don't have near enough.
I think there is. I mean, like you said with Stover and Johnson as well. I think that's the trend. I think Big Ten tight ends are the way to go. There is one that is legitimately my favorite tight end in the class, but what were you going to say first before I rudely interrupted you?
No, no, you're good. You're good. I was actually gonna introduce this next guy, just because it's the only other guy I know on the list. Jatavian Sanders from UT. Uh, Favorite, huh? Let me know. Pump him
Oh,
up.
Jatavian Sanders is not my favorite. It was the
Oh,
other
he's not
big.
the favorite.
He's the other
Oh,
Big Ten guy that is my favorite tight end, but
oh,
I do
sweet.
like
Well,
Jatavian Sanders.
all right. I was gonna say then I'll
What
kind of Sanders about the only other guy I know anything about, but
Gotcha.
I was
Sanders,
definitely
I like Sanders with his lateral quickness. I think that's the best part about him. Like he could eat in tight end screens, and if he learns the inline tight end role a little bit better, I think he can be an NFL type of guy. He reminds me a lot of a Washington, like a what was his name? It wasn't Harrison Bryant, Hunter Bryant.
yeah.
He played with or in Washington a few years back. Just physically athletic, good. Just don't get injured in training camp, and you should be good to go and make the team, or else you're not going to make some teams. But I mean, if you're gonna Alabama let him go for some reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't the all around guy that they needed him to be. So his blocking's bad. He sometimes catches with his pads too much, but again, his route running's very good. Slippery in play action. So I'm gonna probably take. You want physically gifted, Sanders is your guy. What do you like about him? If I know you're not going to take him, but what do you like about him?
Y it's that athleticism. I will say I was a little, yeah, I was just whelmed by his 40 time. I was hoping for something a little faster. I feel like he plays faster than what he ran there, which very well could be. You know, a lot of these tight ends, they're not track stars, so they do not know the nuances of how to run the proper 40. So I do think his actual game speed is faster. He's going to get a shot. I could see him very easily being a third, fourth round pick for a team and, you know, getting kind of the traditional tight end role where he is going to kind of sit there, fall in depth charts and dynasty depth charts for 2 to 3 years, and then all of a sudden year 4 we might finally get some freaking traction from the guy.
Yeah,
But again, that's what makes tight end so amazing because you can watch others waste their picks on the or waste their rookie picks on the tight ends, and then you go clean them up later for pennies, pennies.
exactly. I think
All right, so I'm on pins and needles here. Who's your favorite? Give him to me.
my favorite
Where's he
guy.
at?
He's I rank him higher than I can guarantee you higher than everyone else, and he's my boy out of Minnesota, Brevin Spanford. I've watched this guy for 2 years. I wanted him to come out last year because I wanted him so bad, and he's a blocking specimen. He's physical. He is, I think he's 6'7", 265 pounds. And I watched this guy coming out of the slot. He can line up in the slot and he can have any contested catch you want. Obviously, at that size, he's not the most physically gifted with gaining separation or breakaway speed. But if you need 10 yards, he's going to get it to you. And he's like a O'Keefe blocker in a body that has great and soft hands. I love him. He has a really nice. My favorite part about him is how big he is. You know, everyone counts him out. He's got the best shoulder twitch in this class. And his shoulder. I don't know what it does, but it just locks up linebackers and locks up. He even locked up some safeties, and he just slipped right underneath of them, and then he can go on a nice little in route. And go watch his game. You're gonna like it.
I'm excited. Get a
I
little Kevin
love
Durant, little shimmy shake there on the shoulders. All
yeah.
right. Well, I mean, we are recording this on a Wednesday night, like we said, 8 days before the draft, but looks like we're getting a little breaking news for it. J.K. Dobbins signing with the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, so we've got Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins. Looks like he might be given a second chance. Freaking Ravens. Oh, okay, I didn't even put that together
I was just
yet.
like, no way. I was like,
He's
Gus had to have something to do with that, right?
or what's his name? The OC.
Oh, Greg Roman. Yep.
Greg Roman. Okay, that makes way more sense
I
now.
thought so too, and I was like, wait a second, you said Gus
I was like,
Bus? Yeah.
this backfield sounds familiar. Okay, so
I mean,
fantasy
there's a reason
implications.
why the Ravens got rid of both of them. Slash, contracts were up when you could go get Derrick Henry, who's both of them, and even more in one player out of the two. But
He
I
just
think,
hasn't torn nothing
yeah, that's
compared to how
true.
they've torn all of the ACLs.
But you think about Michigan and their running game. They had a two-headed monster with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. I think you could work with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Bus. I think it might be a little bit difficult now for them to even draft Blake Corum. Now they might still, but
That was my question. You think we're taking a day two running back
I
in
don't think so now. I
St.
think they're going to
Joseph?
focus on something else. I think
Especially,
everyone is in their draft process, and a lot of scouts are saying we need to get wide receivers.
especially with now all of a sudden, I think the four straight quarterback hype is building again. We
Yeah,
almost got it last year. I think it's building
exactly.
again this year, and Marvin Harrison could be going at 5 to the Chargers. And all of a sudden, everybody who's freaking out about Justin Herbert and selling him for way less than they should, letting him fall to QB 15 in underdog drafts right now, and he might end up with Marvin Harrison Jr. Quentin Johnson might turn out to be good enough to be a wide receiver 3.
And they could get some more guys in the draft too.
And J.K. Dobbins can catch the ball.
Yes,
Let's
exactly.
go.
It just helps them. I really like that signing out of them actually, because it gives them a little bit more flexibility in that draft where they could go get a Javon Baker, another guy like a smaller guy that they need to just run around and
Like
create space for these guys.
Harbaugh can get his Roman Wilson.
Yeah,
I'm convinced he's grabbing Michigan players here.
I'm actually. You say that, and I'm like, actually, that would be a perfect fit.
He likes
I
grinders.
think
He
I
likes
actually right now we can put it on record. I bet he takes Roman Wilson over Blake Corum.
round
In
three.
in, in in I don't think he takes both. If I'm gonna pick one, he's gonna take Roman Wilson now. With that
I
news
like it.
breaking.
I like it. Well, that's fun. Look at this Wednesday night breaking news. All right, everybody. Okay.
Never happens.
Never
So is
happens.
there any other tight ends that you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Oh, my list ended like 4 guys ago. We
I knew
need
you I
your
knew you're not a
expertise
big
here.
tight end guy. I have two
Not
others
until
on
they're
this list.
drafted.
Yeah, I have two other guys on this list that I would like to talk about. And the first one's Trey Knox. I'm going to talk to him. He's the one that needs most work. He is my tight end 10, but he's really athletic and he just needs a little bit more refining. And I think if you give him 3 years, he could be Evan Ingram. I really
Okay.
do believe that. So if you're going to take a flyer and you're going to watch Brevin Spanford and you're like, I don't get the hype. He's just the blocker and stuff like that. Go watch Trey Knox and you're like, wow, this dude can scoot. That's Trey Knox. Now, Dallin Holker, I've talked to him about in the past too. That's the Colorado State guy. Love Dallin Holker. And he didn't run his 40 good at all. And he kind of was lackluster at the combine, but you watch the preparations for the draft, but you watch his game speed on tape. It's two way different players. Him and Torrey Horton, who we didn't even talk about for Colorado State. He's a wide receiver coming out. Those two almost single handedly beat Colorado last year and kept Colorado State in that game, and which they ultimately won, yes, but without Holker and Horton, they're not winning that game.
That was a triple overtime game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it started late,
Whew.
and I watched up the whole time. I don't know why, but
No way. I'm
it
East
was a
Coast.
great
I don't
game.
get any Mountain Time games.
I mean, I'm Central Time, and that one started at like 10, and I watched the whole thing.
Oh God.
It was late.
God, I remember trying to watch Hawaii back in like the was it 05, 06, 07 ish times back when I was a kid, trying to stay up late and watch those games. Man, those Rainbow Warriors were dope.
Yep.
Alrighty.
So to wrap it up, let's give me one. Shoot your shot. Which team's gonna be the first one to trade up?
Oh, first one to trade up. I think it's got to be Minnesota.
You think so?
They've got 2 first round picks. They've got some of the best firepower to do something, and they're in a point in time right now where they're not rebuilding. They've got too many pieces around there, and Kevin O'Connell, I feel like he's flirted with the hot seat in the last 2-3 years, so he needs to make sure that that seat stays cool. So I'm gonna go Minnesota, trading up in there somewhere 3-6.
I think they're gonna do everything in their power to trade up, but they're not gonna bet the farm for it. So I think they might let someone else do it, and it might be. I even think, and I've been hearing this lately. It might be the Giants. I think the Giants might go up to 3 and grab a quarterback. I don't know why. I have that feeling like their GM didn't draft Daniel Jones. Dable's obviously on the hot seat. Like he's got to get better this year.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what always buys you more time? A rookie quarterback.
Yo.
So I think it might be the Giants that overpays because the Cowboys didn't get worse. They didn't get better, but they didn't get worse. So they're gonna get beat by them. Washington's gonna get their quarterback of the future. The Eagles are gonna be better. So it's like they have nothing to lose. So try to get someone else is what I think. I mean, I'm putting Jalen Hurts over Daniel Jones. I'm putting Dak Prescott over Daniel Jones. And quite honestly, if it's Jaden Daniels in Washington, I'm putting Jaden Daniels over Daniel Jones as well.
Yep.
So it's like if you have the 4th best quarterback in your division, something's got to change. So I think it might be that. That might be him.
I think I'd be bored by it. It would just
I would
definitely be
too.
like but I don't. I think it's definitely one of the higher chances of happening here.
Now, if you're
Um,
talking about my bias as a fan, if it's not the Vikings, I might throw something. So luckily, I have a stress brick with it's a foam brick and it has the Minnesota Vikings on it, and I've thrown that thing many times. It's very soothing.
so you guys aren't as smart as Cowboys fans. Cowboy fans use real bricks. That way they can actually use them afterwards too.
That's true.
Violent fan base. Jeez. All right, so we've got the big 4 quarterbacks that should be going over under 4.5 quarterbacks in the first round.
I think this is
Do
the
you
year we
see
go
another
over.
guy slip in? You're gonna take the over?
There might be 2, just because like that range of like Las Vegas might need one, Denver might need one, someone else might sneak in. He might. I'd actually set the
I
over
mean,
under at 5.5 because
I
I
think the
think 5 for
Rams.
sure.
I think the Rams at 19. This is their first round pick since Jared Goff in
Yeah,
2016. You don't think maybe they want to spend it on a successor to what's his name? I've
the
heard
Stafford. Yeah,
flirt, yeah, for Stafford. Miami, think what you will, but they could possibly be in the thought of quarterback if they don't want to pay Tua. I mean, they let Ryan Tannehill walk. Clearly, that was stupid. Out well for
yep,
him, but we could see something like that. Philadelphia likes to recycle their quarterbacks earlier than they
yep.
should, maybe not. So I don't know.
I think it's a surefire. Those 4, obviously. I would almost say it's surefire 6. I think Bo Nix and Michael Penix go as well.
Some wide receivers then. Where would you drive where's your over under line?
Oh, 6.5.
6.5. So is it Brian Thomas, Worthy,
The
Franklin?
top three for 3. Yeah, and then either
Yeah.
Jalen Polk or Troy Franklin. I would assume maybe even Keon Coleman. Even it all depends on what you want at the end.
What about McConkey? I mean, it's
McConkey
just
too. So see, like, there's too many. I think 7.5 might be the line, but it could be 6. It could be 9.
I was gonna say if it's a 7.5, I think I'd slam the under just because that's an absurd amount. But I do not think it's unrealistic. I
Yeah,
do not think that. I think we could see 7, 8,
there's
9
gonna be
touchdowns.
there's gonna be a wide receiver run like there was last year with JSN and Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnson and Zay
Hmm.
Flowers, and that's gonna help the line be where it is. But everyone wants their playmaker. They want to now they know the value of a playmaker.
Well, we're gonna learn that just so right now, just in we're I guess maybe not. We already had breaking news. So fake breaking news. Brandon Ayuk is being traded for a first round pick. Who traded for him?
Steelers.
Steelers. I like it too. I like it too.
I think it's the
And
only way they make ground in their division, and you got to give everything in your power to make sure Fields and even Russell Wilson succeeds. So if Russell Wilson doesn't succeed, you can't blame the wide receiver core. And they need a guy after Deontay Johnson. Why not get the best guy out there right now that you can go and get? Because T. Higgins, you're not getting. So why not get the next best? I mean, and you can argue which one's better out of Higgins and Ayuk. We can have that discussion all day. In that scenario, the Steelers will not be getting T. Higgins unless he walks. So go get Ayuk and just let him bully people.
Yeah, I like Pittsburgh. We talked about Jacksonville as being maybe a sneaky draft rookie. I kind of like them because they can get out from underneath Kirk's deal after this year. And then maybe even Detroit. I think that they're building something great over there, and they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I'm more in the camp that I don't believe that he is your forever number one. I think, if anything, he is a forever 1A, and he would need a 1B with him. Not to say that he wouldn't be the best in that room, but I just don't believe that he can bring a chip home by himself. And Javonte Williams can't get out of the sports book to do that, you know? So I think they're either going to be drafting a wide receiver there or trading would be amazing.
Thank you for saying that, because that's why I don't have him in my top 5 wide receiver rankings like a lot of people do. I think they need something else.
Same.
Now, I'm not saying Amon-Ra St. Brown is bad. He's not.
Nope,
he's a really good receiver,
that.
But he needs another guy. He can't do it by himself. He is not a Randy Moss type of receiver. He's not a guy that can take over. He's not Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson doesn't need Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison needs Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I feel like it's what we saw with the Dolphins back when Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry was incredible. What he was able to do is freaking incredible. He was such a great of his prototype of wide receiver, but he was never. He wasn't that elite number one, especially one that you want to pay $30 million to. Amon-Ra probably deserves close to that $30 million mark. He does. No one should pay him. I don't think anybody should pay him. Maybe $30 million.
Get in around the Devontae Smith range.
Yes, I think he's more pay him top 10, not top 5.
Yes, and I mean, and that's why, like, in the rankings, I have, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and I even have AJ Brown ahead of him. It's just, I think those are some of the guys that you can have arguments about that might be better than him. Now, I'm not saying all the bigger wide receivers and the wide receiver ones are better. I don't think DK is better than him, but also DK has a good situation with JSN and Tyler Lockett. Amon-Ra doesn't have that. Like, we just keep bringing it home that he needs a guy. He needs another guy. And I think, like you said, if Ayuk went there, man, as a Vikings fan, I'd hate it, but it'd be perfect.
God, actually, that between those two, Laporta and that two-headed monster and the running backs, oh my God, Jared Goff would be the luckiest fella. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, let's just throw Hendon Hooker in there. Give that guy a bone. Give him a shot in training camp.
Talking about that 27-year-old, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he might be.
Oh God. Well, everybody, this is going to be wrapping up our rookie deep dive that we have been doing. I'm just trying to name it something else because everybody's calling it the deep dive, but it looks like we're going to be following them all. Of course, this will be our last episode before the draft, so make sure you come see us in a couple of weeks when we cover all of the draft coverage a week after the draft. Because that instant draft reaction, nobody wants that. We want to see after we've had time to digest it and spit it out and chew it again, digest it a little bit more, spit it out. It's a process. It's a process here. But Cody, everybody wants to know, where else can they find your work? What else you working on?
Been working on a lot of dynasty dilemmas on some of the players. Like I said, I just had one releasing soon about Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's getting a proper ranking in sleeper drafts and stuff like that. And I'm working on like a Trey McBride and kind of just different scenarios using our dynasty trade calculator we have at Dynasty Pros. But I exclusively do this podcast and write for Dynasty Pros. I love it over there. So what are you up to?
Oh, little this, little that. If you really want to know, though, come on over to Twitter or X. Actually, mine's on
Whatever.
Twitter. Mine's on Twitter. It says twitter.com. But yeah, come on over there. You can find me there at too much underscore Brian. I'm helping out a little bit of everywhere, a handful of sites, but I do make sure that I post everything there. Got lots of best ball content for you. So if you want to do some drafts with me, come on over. Friday nights, we've got them rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I've seen you've been taking some hits on some shows too. A lot of them lately.
Staying busy, man. Staying
Yeah,
busy. It's football season. I don't care if
yeah.
it's April. It's football season. Until next time, everybody, we can't thank you enough for being here. We'll see y'all later.